In section 9.5, we're going to focus on factoring. We've done some factoring where we pulled out common factors, but this time we're going to try to determine the two binomials that when multiplied together would give us the trinomial x squared plus 8x plus 12. I am going to put in the parentheses for each of the binomials. I know that a binomial has two terms, so I'm going to put a little line to represent the two places in each binomial. To determine if I put in addition signs or subtraction signs, I'm going to first look at the last term in the trinomial. The constant is positive, so I'm either going to be multiplying two positive numbers together or two negative numbers together. Now I'm going to look at the middle term. Since the middle term is positive, that means that I do have to multiply two positive numbers together that when added together would give me the 8x. So let's work on finding the last terms in the trinomial. 12. Let's look at the factors of 12. I have 1 and 12, 2 and 6, and 3 and 4. So any of those numbers can go in this last place in the binomial. Let's check the sums. I have 13, 8, and 7. So when I multiply 2 times 6 together, I get 12, and its sum is 8. So I'm going to use the factors of 2 and 6 in the second place in each of those binomials. And I know to get the x squared term, I have to multiply x times x. So let's check. X times x is x squared. 2 times x is 2x. X times 6 is 6x. And 2 times 6 is 12. When I add the middle terms together, I do get 8x. And so it does check. So the two binomials that when multiplied together would give us x squared plus 8x plus 12 is the quantity x plus 2 times the quantity x plus 6. Let's look at another example. I have x squared plus x plus negative 20. I'm going to set up my two binomials. And I'm going to put x in the first place and x in the first place in the second binomial because x times x will give me x squared. And I need to determine which two numbers would multiply to give me negative 20. I know in order to get a negative 20, I do have to multiply a positive number times a negative number. So I can put an addition sign and a subtraction sign in one in each of the binomials. Now I need to figure out which two numbers when multiplied together would give me a negative 20, but their sum would be a positive 1. So I'm going to write down negative 1 and 20, negative 20 and 1, negative 2 and 10, positive 2 and negative 10, positive 4 and negative 5, or negative 4 and a positive 5. And if I calculate the sums, I get 19, negative 19, 8, negative 8, negative 1, and 1. So you can tell that when I move the negative sign to either factor, all it does, the sum is the same, the sign of the sum is what changes. So if I want a positive x or a positive 1, this last pair would work. I would have a negative 4 and a positive 5. So I'm going to put the 5 after the addition sign and the 4 after the subtraction sign. So let's check and see if that does work. I'm going to change this to plus a negative 4. X times x is x squared. X times negative 4 is negative 4x. 5 times x is 5x. 5 times negative 4 is a negative 20. And when I add my middle terms together, I do end up with x. So my answer does check. So the two binomials that multiply to give me x squared plus x plus negative 20 is the quantity x plus 5 times the quantity x plus a negative 4. And one last example. I have x squared plus a negative 6x plus a negative 16. I wanted to determine what factors would produce negative 16 and give me a sum of negative 6. So I'm going to ask you to press pause and try to determine what those binomials are. then press resume to check your answer. I am going to put the parentheses in for each binomial and put my lines in for the places where I would put each of the terms. In order to get a negative 16, I know I must multiply a positive number times a negative number. I'm going to put x in front of, or in the first place in each binomial, because x times x gives me x squared. I'm going to list the factors of negative 16. They're 1 and negative 16, or negative 16 and 1, 4 and negative 4. Doesn't matter if I reverse that. And then I have negative 2, 8, or 2 and negative 8. And 1 and negative 16 is a negative 15. Oops, I'm sorry, I should have done positive 16 and negative 1. Positive 15, 4 and negative 4 is 0. Negative 2 and 8 is 6. And 2 and negative 8 is negative 6. So in order to get to negative 6, I would have to use these last two factors. A positive 2 will go in after the addition sign. A negative 8 will go in after the subtraction sign. I'll change that to addition of the opposite so you can see that is negative 8. And let's check and make sure. X times x is x squared. X times negative 8 is negative 8x. 2 times x is 2x. And 2 times negative 8 is a negative 16. When I add my middle terms together, I end up with x squared plus negative 6x plus negative 16. So the quantity x plus 2 times the quantity x plus negative 8 is our final answer. Now it's your turn. I would like you to try these 4 problems and see if you can create the binomials that would multiply to give each of these trinomials. At any time, you can go back and review the process for these 3 examples that preceded these questions.